So welcome everyone to the Data Modeling Days. I'm very excited together with my colleagues at Wikimedia Deutschland to welcome you for this event. It's going to be 3 days of discussions and workshops and presentations related to how we model data in Wikidata. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. Make yourself comfortable here in this jitsi room. This is where we're going to spend most of our time during the next 3 days. So today for this introduction session, we're going to look a little bit at who's in the room, and then I'm going to explain a few things about the event, how it's going, also how to use this jitsi room where we are at. And then we're going to dive into the core of the topic of our event, like what are we talking about when we talk about data modeling? And we're also going to talk about the result of a research conducted by Wikimedia Deutschland on ontology issues, but Lydia will explain more to you about this later. So while I will ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, we also have a few things that you would like to ask you. So if you want, you can use the chat of the room that you can find. You can click on the little chat button in the menu bar at the bottom of the screen, and you can write us a few words about yourself, especially where you're joining us from. I'm interested to know if this is your first time at the Wikidata events, like whether it is on-site or online events, everything counts. And we're super interested to know what you're particularly interested in at your event, at this event, what you're excited about. So let us know. And in the meantime, Lydia, maybe you want to introduce yourself quickly.
I can start. Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me yet, I'm Lydia. I'm the portfolio lead for Wikidata. So I help ensure that it all fits together and that we're moving forward in the right direction when it comes to the development and more. And I'm very excited that we're doing the data modeling days now. Daria, do you want to go next?
To make Wikidata more usable and useful. I'm joining today from Greifswald, which is a small city on in the northern part of Germany. And this is my first time at Wikidata event, or second time. I say second. Sorry. And I'm excited to get to know more about data modeling challenges. Ariane.
Junior Product Manager at Wikidata. I'll be helping out with all things entity schema. I help and also would like to know how everything's going modeling wise with everyone here. I'm excited to join in for a lot of sessions and see what you all have to talk about.
Yay! Welcome to you all. Okay, so I see that people started writing in the chat a little bit where you're from and what you're excited about this event. Please continue. As for me, I will go through some information about this event and how to attend. So the data modeling days are taking place starting today, and then during the day, and by the day I mean European time zone, but I hope that you can find some sessions that are adapted to your time zones wherever you're joining from on December 1st and December 2nd. And on December 3rd, it's going to be an open self-organized day, meaning the schedule is open. You can add some extra sessions on the table that is on the main wiki page, and you can organize your, especially maybe workshops or editing sessions. But just know that there will be no facilitation from us, and there will also not be any recording during December 3rd. Most sessions are going to take place on this GC room, and you can find the program on the main page of the event, which is Wikidata events / Data Modeling Days 2023. And the event
Leah,
is
we're still I'm at least still seeing the first slide.
Oh,
know.
interesting.
I'm seeing slide 5 about the event, so
Cool. Then
it's
maybe
not
it's
an
just
issue
me.
for everyone.
Cool.
This, yeah, is a spoiler of my next slide, which says some bugs can happen on Jitsi. One possibility is sometimes the browser that you're using. Apparently, Jitsi strongly prefers Chrome or Chromium or anything that is not Firefox, basically. So if you're encountering some issues, it may be due to this. So I hope that everyone else is also seeing the about the event slide. So this event is open. There is no registration. However, we have a participant list also on the main wiki page. And if you didn't add yourself there yet, you can do. It's mostly so we're able to, like, if you're having some interesting discussion with someone, you can find them later going through this participant page. But of course, it's not mandatory. The whole event, as well as the discussion channels, such as this Jitsi chat, are covered by the technical code of conduct. So please have a look. And generally, please keep in mind in your interactions that we want to have an environment that is friendly and helpful, maybe especially for newcomers, people joining for the first time. So make sure that you're helping each other and making each other feel comfortable. And if you have any question or any issue during the event, you can contact me either directly in the room if something is happening, but you can also send me an email or you can ping me on Telegram. So what I was saying about Jitsi. So in the menu bar, you will find several options. You have your usual mute the microphone and mute the camera button. You have the screen sharing button that's going to be useful mostly for the speakers. Then you have the access to the chat. And then you have a button that is a little bit multi-function if it didn't change, because if you click on the hand, it's like raising hand, like for people who want to speak. And this is a feature that we may use during the discussions. But if you just want to send an emoji, send a reaction, you need to click on the little arrow and then it's going to show the emojis. It's a little bit confusing. So don't worry if you happen to click on the raise hand by mistake. It's fine. You can also, I think you can unraise it. And for the speakers, this is a feature that you can use if you want to have like a queue for people to ask questions or to participate during the discussions. And then you have the possibility to see the participants, and you also have the possibility to toggle the view between like only the main person speaking or seeing everyone. Like this is just for you. This is your own settings. So I would say during the presentation, and if you don't want to be seen, since we are recording these sessions, it's preferable that you mute both your microphone and camera, also because muting your camera allows people who have a slow internet connection to still be able to follow the event. But of course, during the discussion moments, if you want to unmute or like show your face, you're very welcome to do so. And the chat is going to be used mostly to discuss and to ask questions. I wanted to mention also that bugs can happen on Jitsi, especially when we are a lot of people, which we are right now. We're 55 people now. That's pretty impressive. So what I was saying earlier is that usually, from what we tested, Jitsi works better on Chrome or Chromium. So if you're encountering some issues with other browsers, maybe you want to switch browser and try it again. And generally, like if something doesn't work, maybe you just want to refresh the page to re-enter the room and see if things work better, or switch browser, as I was saying, or even in the worst case, reboot your computer. But I hope you won't have to do that. And if you prefer joining from mobile, there is also a Jitsi app that works pretty well. And instead of the URL, you're just going to have to enter like the last part of the URL, like the Wikidata Data Modelling Days 2023 in the app, and you should be able to join. And again, if you're having any technical issues, feel free to raise it in the chat or to write to me if you're encountering some serious issue that prevent you to attend the event. So let's talk a little bit about documentation, because this is something that is important at our events. So for almost each session, we're gonna almost every session we're gonna record the sound and the video. This is written in the schedule. Like whenever you see this little camera icon and video recording, it means that we're gonna record. This is not an automated feature. There is actually a great human behind the scene doing the recording and making sure that it's going to be uploaded on the internet as soon as possible. It's not going to be directly after the session. This is not an automated live stream thing. So please be patient. It's going to be uploaded a few days after the session took place, very likely. And we also have collaborative notes. You can find the link to the Etherpad documents also in the program next to each session. If you encounter a problem, feel free to fix it directly on Wiki. And you're also very welcome to take some collaborative notes that can be useful, for example, to explain a little bit what we've been doing during the session, or to add the links that cannot be directly added to the video. And yeah, generally the slides and the videos will be published hopefully shortly after the event. And at the end of each session, we will take a few minutes together to note down what are the outcomes of the session, what we took away from it. And if there are any actions or next steps, we're going to try to list them together, because the goal of this event is not only to discuss issues and to ramble about things, but also to move forward with things and make decisions or take actions on some things that should be improved. So now I have a word for the speakers of the program that may be already here joining the session. First of all, thank you very much for proposing your session, for accepting to join and to present something. I will kindly ask you to double check the time of your session. Don't forget that the program is provided in UTC, GMT. And join the Jitsi room a little bit in advance, ideally during the break that will take place during 10 minutes before each session, so you can test the room, you can share your slides to try it and do this kind of things. Speaking about slides, if you're preparing your slides right now, you can use the slide templates that I linked from this opening slide, but you don't have to. And don't forget to upload your slides or any material that you shared on Wikimedia Commons, ideally before the session. If not, that's fine, but shortly after the session, so people who didn't have the chance to join live can review the slide and enjoy your content. And if you don't want your session to be recorded, this is possible, but please let me know as soon as possible by dropping me an email so we can make sure that your session is not recorded. If you want to join the discussions that are happening during the event, you can of course chat in the Jitsi chat, but just know that this chat is not going to be logged or recorded publicly. So basically it's for like, it's good to chat during the session, but it's not going to be recorded anywhere. However, you can talk on the talk page of the event. You can use our hashtag, and you can join the Wikidata community channels, such as the Telegram group, the mailing list, and so on. You will find all the links on the community channel page that I linked here. All right, I think I'm done with the logistics of the event. I'm going to go through the chat now to see if there were any questions. And in the meantime, I will ask Lydia to tell us more about what this event is about.
Cool. Yeah, what is this all about? Can you go to the next slide, Lydia? So data modeling is at the very core of everything we do on Wikidata in one way or another. But at the same time, it can be very hard in some areas, and it can be super messy, which means it can be very confusing for some people. So I've had a few people come to me who didn't even know where to start asking their questions. So we said, we can do something about this. Next slide, please. Which is create the data modeling days and get together to do many things. First of all, welcoming in new people. So if this is your first event, welcome, and help them find their way around Wikidata, around data modeling, where to ask their questions, how to ask their questions, all of that. But also, of course, we are here to discuss all the nitty-gritty details and nerd out on particular modeling issues. I want us to talk about improving data modeling on Wikidata overall. And I hope we can learn about some exciting and upcoming tools together. Next slide, please. Now, to do all this, some big picture things that I would like to keep us in mind. And one of the things that's really important to me is that Wikidata's data is there to be used, right? We want to empower other people to use our data to build really cool applications. And the more well-modeled Wikidata's data is, the easier this gets. Now, well-modeled is not very easy to define because it depends on what you want to do with that data, which is a bit hard for Wikidata since it's so universally useful. But I hope we can still make progress towards more well-modeled data during this event. Next slide, please. So on one hand, we want our data to be well-modeled so that people can actually use it to build cool applications. Another thing that's really important to keep in mind for data modeling days is that Wikibase, the software that's underlying Wikidata, gives us a ton of freedom for how to model data. That is very cool and powerful because it allows us to model the world in a very in a much more faithful way than many other systems would allow us to. That power, however, also allows us to make things more complicated and more complex than they maybe sometimes should be. So something to keep in mind for the data modeling days is that with great power also comes great responsibility. Next slide, please. Putting this all together, there's a saying, the map is not the territory, right? We're modeling the world, we're not transferring it one-to-one into Wikidata. Let's try to find the right balance between making the data as faithful to the real world as we can, while also keeping it useful for people to use to build applications. And with that, I hope we can geek out on 3 days of data modeling together. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yay! Awesome. All right, so before we have a look at the program, actually, I wanted to ask first if some of you had some questions so far, either about the event or about data modeling, about what Lydia just said. So if you have some questions, you can either unmute yourself and speak out, or you can write a message in the chat.
People seem very excited about 3 days of data modeling, which, nice. It's very cool. And we have 66 people here now. Amazing.
Awesome. All right. If there are no questions for now, that's fine. We're going to have another moment to ask questions anyway, because we are not done yet. Now we're going to talk about the research on ontology issues.
Yes. So one of the things that is super closely tied to the topic of data modeling is issues in our ontology. And Daria and I and some others did research to figure out all these people who are complaining about ontology issues in Wikidata, what do they actually complain about? What's their actual problem? So we talked to people to find out. And ontology issues are a problem, especially for people who try to build applications on top of Wikidata's data, because if the data is modeled in an inconsistent or weird way, then you can get unexpected results in your queries, or you can get unexpected relations, and then all your data in the app doesn't make sense anymore, for example. Or you get weird inconsistencies between similar concepts that you don't expect and that make you build your application in a much more complicated way than you would want it to be. Also, if you're trying to infer new information, things like, oh, there is a person that's related to another person, let's try to infer the other way around. All of that becomes harder or even impossible with some of the ontology issues that people have been complaining about. And all of that, of course, is much more problematic for smaller groups of people, smaller organizations who try to build on top of our data, because they don't necessarily have the time and other resources to figure this all out and dive into it and work around it. Next slide, please. So people have been saying there are many different types of issues that we have. So for example, we have conflicting real-world models, conceptual ambiguity, semantic drift, upper-level ontology is messy, and so on. And we try to figure out, okay, that's too many issues. What's actually doable for us? What can we solve? What's the most important to fix? Next slide, please. So we, sorry, there's someone at the door. I'm gonna be right back.
All good. In the meantime, if any one of you knows maybe some tool that does automated translation, unfortunately, as we were discussing in the chat, most of the sessions of this program are going to be in English. And Jitsi doesn't offer language translation yet, but maybe some of you know some kind of third-party tool that someone could use to have at least a AI-powered generated translation. That would be awesome. I think we can start again, Lydia, when you're ready.
Sorry. So based on these issues that that people were complaining about, we said, okay, let's talk which ones of those are the worst, which do people encounter most often. And we have some results. The most important thing that makes it hard for people to build applications is conceptual ambiguity. So this means there is one item that has different things in it, or overlapping things in it. So on the screenshot here, for example, you see the item for embassy, which conflates the idea of a diplomatic mission and a location. So it's the building versus the institutional thing, let's say. And you would make different statements about both of these, right? You would, for example, talk about when the building was constructed, or when the institution was opened. And those are not the same dates necessarily. So that causes issues in queries and much more. And one of the things that plays into this is, of course, Wikidata's close connection to Wikipedia, where Wikipedia is very much leaning towards covering broader concepts in one article and bringing them together into one article instead of having too many articles about close but not quite the same concepts, whereas Wikidata is trying to be more clear about splitting them. And some of those we do intentionally and probably don't even want to change, because if we split them too much, that might make things even worse, because then we have so many items that that are hard to make sense of. So it's a balance we have to strike. Next slide, please. So next to conceptual ambiguity, the runner-up, number 2, was inconsistent modeling. So this is about modeling similar kinds of data in different ways. And this can either happen in the same domain. So sometimes we might model plants one way and another time in a different way, or it can happen across domains. So we might model things that should probably be kind of similar, like, I don't know, different types of professions, for example, in different ways, while they should probably be modeled in similar ways. Next slide, please. Besides that, the next most severe ones that people kept telling us about are the complexity introduced by conflicting real-world models. So if Wikidata is trying to reflect different opinions, different worldviews in the real world, that makes our data a bit harder to use. In this case, that's something we want to express and that we value, so that's fine, but we need to be mindful of it. Then we have unclassified items. So those are items that don't have, for example, an instance of, subclass of, or similar statements. So you don't really know where they belong in the ontology. And then the last one, messy upper ontology. So the very top of our ontology is a bit of a mess, but it comes lower in the severity issue, list. So not the most important fight to fight. Next one, please. So Daria has put together an amazing overview of all the research, and you can find it on Wikidata on the ontology issues prioritization page. And if you want to sign up for research like this, that would be amazing. And I'm sure one of you can post the links in the chat for signing up for joining research projects like this in the future. Next slide, please. So now that we have all these problems, what are we going to do about it? There are a bunch of things we've been talking about that we could and should do. These data modeling days are certainly one part of it. But to directly address those issues I've mentioned, we want to make entity schemas more useful. I'm not going to dive into entity schemas because we have several sessions, including an intro to entity schemas coming up over the next days. So please do join them. It's going to be very helpful, I hope. Then we were thinking about making it possible to query constraints violations. So it's easier to create lists of statements that have an issue and then work through it. Then we have been thinking about how to make wiki projects more visible, because right now, unless you know that in the back room of Wikidata, there are wiki projects where all the fun stuff happens, it's not very visible that they even exist. So we've been thinking about how to make that better. The same thing for showcase items and documentation. So showcase items are a great way to show people how to model something. But again, if you don't know that they exist, it's very hard. And same for our documentation. We have amazing documentation for a lot of modeling issues, but people don't necessarily know that it exists and where to look. Then we have been thinking about creating automated lists for Wikipedia and the other Wikimedia projects. So this is all about things like Listeria does to create articles or lists on Wikipedia and the other Wikimedia projects based on a query to Wikidata. For that, there's also a session which you should totally come to, where we're going to talk about how to move that forward and how it should potentially look. Then we were thinking about the fact that we have some statements that are a bit special. So, for example, instance of, subclass of, part of, and so on are a bit more destructive if you change them than other statements on an item. So we were thinking of moving them to a separate section on the item page to help people understand a bit better that making changes there has potentially far-reaching consequences and not just on that item itself. And then we have been thinking about how can we show people that if they're making a statement change on an item, on, for example, a subclass of statement, that has implications for the bigger picture. And this is a bit of a, how do we even do this? So again, we will have a session to talk that through. If you have ideas for how to help people see the bigger picture of the bigger consequences of their edits, that would be the session to come to. And last but not least, a very promising idea is making it easier to fix common mistakes automatically. And there are ways already exist that are specifically autofix. And we will also have a session about that by Epidosis for how to make autofix better and improve it. And I'm very much looking forward to all these sessions and love that you are here and hope that you will come to these sessions to discuss how to make some of these happen. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lydia. So we have around like 10 minutes for questions or discussions if you have any after this presentation. So you have two options. Either you can unmute yourself and ask your question directly, or you can write it in the chat and I will read it out loud.